What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Wednesday night live stream real estate recap where we talk about everything to do with the housing market and some other stuff. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I got a couple articles to share. There's a lot of markets in our country where they are softening, more inventory, price drops. It's kind of crazy. And so I'm going to share those articles with you and we'll go over that. Also, Zillow has downgraded their forecast. So we'll go over that as well. And then, if we have time, which I think we will also talk about what's happening here in the DC area because we've got a lot going on here if you hadn't heard. And I know I talked about last week and I did a video, I put out a lot of data, but I think, every day is changing and more data has come out. But before I do any of that, I'm going to bring on my guest. She's been here before. She is a very good friend of mine. She is her own broker, which is really impressive. She's a broker in Maryland, Virginia, DC, Florida, and Maine. She's amazing. And she's an investor. She owns a lot of property, started really young. She just really impresses me. So I had to, twist her arm to come back on. And I'm going to bring her on right now. Her name is Laurel Murphy. Laurel Murphy. Oh my God, I must didn't say your name right. Hi.
Hello.
Like Laurel Murphy.
Thanks for having me again.
I love your background. I think it's so pretty. And so are you. Thanks for coming back on. You and I were just talking, backstage before I suddenly went live on you. And there's just so much going on that it's almost like, where do we start? I have like 6 windows open, stuff I want to share. But I think we should start with what I originally wanted to talk about, which is the Zillow downgrading their forecast. So let me share my screen and we'll go over that. And then also where all the markets are softening, I have a whole list of them. And we'll go through them. We got a lot to get through. Okay. But let's start here. Okay, so this just came out. This is from Fast Company. It's from Lance Lambert. As you guys know, if you watch my channel, he's one of my favorites. He's a great reporter and data collector, and I really believe what he says because he's very thorough in his research. But this is more about Zillow. So, housing market map. Zillow just revised its 2025 home price forecast. Zillow projects that U.S. home prices will rise 1.1% between January 2025 and January 2026. This week, Zillow economists announced that they expect U.S. home prices, as measured by the Zillow Home Value Index, to rise 1.1% between January 25 and January 26. That's a downward revision from their previous 12-month forecast, which had projected a 2.9% increase in U.S. home prices. Zillow's latest forecast anticipates a home value growth in 2025 to be weaker than previously expected, which I think is the most important part of this, wrote Zillow economists on Wednesday. New listings were higher than expected out of the gate this year, and inventory expectations that were revised higher have put downward pressure on Zillow's forecast for home value growth. Not only do Zillow economists predict weak national home price growth this year, but they're also predicting that U.S. existing home sales remain unchanged from 2023 and 2024 at 4.1 million, which is well below the 5.3 million U.S. existing home sales in pre-pandemic 2019. That's interesting, because if they're predicting that the home sales are still going to be constricted, because that's a really small amount at 4.1 million, and yet the prices aren't going up, even with limited sales, which I think is really interesting because you would think if there's not a lot of sales and still a lot of buyers, home prices look up. So buyers must be backing out. Let's see what else they're going to say, and then we'll talk about it. Zillow, am I talking too fast?
No.
Slow me down. I did. Slow me down. Zillow economists added that as elevated mortgage rates dampen demand for home purchases, many potential buyers are staying renters for longer. Okay, I don't read these beforehand because I want them to be fresh. Zillow forecasts a 3.7% increase in single-family rents for 2025, while multifamily rents are projected to rise by 3.1%. With apartment construction slowing, the growth rates for single-family and multifamily rents are expected to converge more closely than in recent years. It's interesting for you as an investor.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see how much longer. Okay, so we're going to get into where I see you there, Alabama. I'm going to get you 1 second. Let me just see where they're saying where they're going to prices are going to go up and prices are going to go down. Okay. Among the 300 largest U.S. housing markets, Zillow expects the strongest home price appreciation between January 2025 and January 2026 to occur in these 10 areas: Knoxville, Tennessee, Atlanta. And by the way, guys, if you're watching this live and you want me to share the links to any of these in the chat, I'm happy to do that, especially if I'm going too fast. Knoxville, Tennessee, 5.2%. Atlantic City, New Jersey, 5.1%. Torrington, Connecticut, 4. These are so random. 4.8%. Bangor, Maine. That's Maine, right, Emmy? You would know that. 4.8%. Kingston, New York, 4.7%. Pottsville, Pennsylvania, 4.7%. Syracuse, New York, 4.5%. Rochester, New York, 4.4%. Norwich, Connecticut, 4.4%. And Vineland, New Jersey. So all besides Tennessee in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a trend right there. And these are the housing markets where Zillow expects the weakest home price appreciation between January and January. Lake Charles, Louisiana, down 7.3%. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Houma, Louisiana. I apologize if I'm not. Down 6.4%. New Orleans, Louisiana, down 5%. Louisiana's having a tough run. Down 5.1%. Lafayette, Louisiana, down 4.1%. Shreveport, Louisiana, down 3.9%. Odessa, Texas, down 3.8%. Beaumont, Texas, down 3.6%. Chico, California, down 3.1%. Midland, Texas, down 2.8%. And Alexandria, Louisiana, down 2.5%. While Zillow expects home prices across most of Florida to rise over the coming year, Resi Club remains skeptical. After all, Florida has experienced a significant increase in active inventory and months of supply over the past year, which could signal potential pricing weakness. Indeed, single-family and condo prices are currently declining in most Florida housing markets. And I have a lot of other websites up with all this data about home prices decreasing and increasing around the country, which we will bring up. I want to hear what you think about it, Laura, but let me just see what's happening over here. As I mentioned in the last live, the number of people who are looking for me to fix up their homes to put up for sale has increased. Interesting. And in the last 2 days, I've been receiving more than 6 calls per day. And this is unprecedented. And you're in our area, right? You're right here in the DMV, correct? I believe, even though it says Alabama. Let me know where you are. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Interesting. The last year, I've been more than 6 calls per day.
Wow.
To fix up their homes to put on the sale. And I wonder if that has anything to do with what's happening right now with, all this DOGE, firings and resignations and shakeups. What do you think about, first of all, about Zillow downgrading their forecast and the places that they're projecting will have the strongest home price appreciation and also the weakest home price appreciation?
I think, that's just sort of a reflection of people's sort of uncertainty about what's coming or fallout or whatever term you'd like to call that. Of course, you're using data. I think that what I picked up on these cities that are going to appreciate the most, like you said, in the Northeast, but they're also kind of Kingston, New York is upstate New York.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit farther out, Syracuse, Rochester, New York. I mean, I went to school close to there, and I wouldn't say it's the most desirable place, especially right now, but they're kind of on a little bit farther out,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these are cool places.
Yes.
Really cool.
Yes. And then the ones that are kind of going
down are all in the South, Louisiana, Texas, and California.
So interesting. The line that I saw, while Zillow expects home prices across most of Florida to rise. I spent a lot of time in Florida. That's where most of my rentals are. I can only speak to what I've been experiencing, as a landlord there, besides the residential real estate. But I've been watching it. And as far as rents, they are also building at a very fast clip where supply is seemingly outpacing demand
in Florida.
In Florida.
Which
And
part of Florida is your stuff is around Jacksonville, right?
Correct. Whereas, re-renting, I've seen a lot of the rents were just flat or declined from where I was my rent rates from even a year and a half ago. I could not get the same rents. So they are building leasing buildings also. So even renters are having have more options and newer options, right? And I'm mostly in single family, but I do have a duplex. So I'm not sure how much I'm watching it a lot because I'm not sure, the values of my homes, like most places went up quite a bit. For Florida, it's more dramatic, I feel. So if the trend is that the growth of new listings are outpacing the sales and the inventory is rising faster than the demand,
right?
I'm going to take notice for sure.
Yeah. Is Jacksonville in Central Florida? Clements Home Inspection said amount of home inspections went up this month dramatically in Central Florida. Is that near where you are? Where you're
well, no, I'm in Jacksonville is northern Florida, right? Northeast Florida, central. But home inspections attached to sales or
I would imagine attached
to home inspections for sales or.
Let's look at this. I'm going to share something else. It's more about Florida. Like I said, I have a lot of stuff up here, but and then I mean, there's so much happening, like even on a day-to-day basis. You and I talk all the time in our area with all the stuff going on that's really going to affect our housing market. All right, this one is I have so many windows open that I have to make sure they run. Okay. So this is also Lance Lambert. So he says 31 housing markets where home prices are falling. It's just from 2 days ago. By the way, he said sales as far as the home inspections when you were asking.
So for sales.
Yeah, which says to me that now a lot of buyers are able to put home inspections in their contracts, which they weren't doing here a lot because it was so crazy, which I think is good. But it also probably means that there's a lot more inventory on the market and more sales happening if there's more inspections happening. Which is all of these factors are great data points for us to kind of forecast what's happening in the housing market because it all counts. The inspections, the sales, home prices, inventory, all of it counts, not just one thing or the other. So this is 31 housing markets where home prices are falling. Among the 300 largest metro area housing markets, 31 are seeing falling home prices on a year-over-year basis, according to Resi Club, same guy I was telling you about. So national home prices have risen 2.6%. Well, we don't really care about that. Let's see where they're falling. Okay, well, home prices continue to rise in regions with tight inventory, such as much of the Northeast, Midwest, and Southern California. Some housing markets in states like Texas, Florida, and Louisiana, where inventory is now surpassed pre-pandemic 2019 levels, are experiencing modest price corrections. The year-over-year declines are evident in major metros such as Austin, down 3.4%, Tampa, down 2.8%, San Antonio, down 1.8%, New Orleans, 1.1%, Jacksonville, 0.9%, Phoenix, 0.8%, Dallas, 0.7%, and Orlando, 0.6%. Still not huge declines.
I think it's the beginning, honestly. I looked up and the Florida's chief economist, his numbers, and he's saying that new listings in Florida for single family is up 15.5%.
From when to when?
While pending sales for single family is down 4.
But what are the dates? From when to when? Is this from
January? This was just put out just in the last, Actually, this is from yesterday. He put
No, I
out.
know, but what is the data? What are they comparing it to? It's new listings are up from a week, a year, like what that we need to know where they're comparing, like what the up from when. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. I think it's year over year.
That would be my guess.
Right. So he said it's the inventory is the highest since 2012. And so
Wow.
you know, the balance is kind of tipping in the buyers, more of a buyer's favor, which makes sense to all these home inspections if they're attached to sales, like you're saying. Like they are writing in home inspections because they can. They can ask for a little bit more. They can take their time, you know, because there's more inventory and more choices.
And I'm all for that. I hate it. I mean, we're lucky here where we are because, you know, most of the time sellers allow our buyers to do pre-inspections. So at least, you know, the buyer can do an inspection. Pre-inspection is when you do an inspection before you write the offer. And it's shorter. It's usually an hour, hour and a half rather than 3 hours. And it's usually a walk and talk rather than a written report. And it's the same inspector, you know, it's usually half the price, but same inspector, same set of eyes, at least having a professional set of eyes on the house, you know, whereas other markets, they don't allow that. So people were just waiving inspections and hoping for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this graph, this is the same article of where in Florida, they're seeing falling home prices. This is from January 2024 to January 2025. You might be more familiar with where these places are in Florida, but Punta Gorda down 8.2%, Cape Coral, Fort Myers down 6 point. I mean, this is not 1%. This is more significant. 6.7%, Northport, Sarasota, 6.2%, Marco Islands, 5.2%. You know, then it gets a little bit, you know, smaller margins when you get a little bit further down the list in Texas and other Tampa, Florida. But most of these, just looking, Florida, 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 Texas, Florida, 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 Louisiana, Florida, Texas, Texas, Louisiana, North Carolina, outlier, Florida, 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 Arizona. I mean, all of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Florida's been, you know, it's a unique place. It's gotten hit by a couple of different things between natural disasters, which kind of led to some insurance issues, you know, the migration patterns, which Florida was maybe one or two, maybe after Texas, as far as largest numbers of migration, which, you know, more buyers, you know, up demand back then, a couple of years ago, not as much inventory, which raised values. So it's like this whole, and that which led to higher real estate taxes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things going on.
Also, and like he says here, a lot of these markets boomed during the pandemic. These areas saw major price surges during the pandemic housing boom, with home price growth outpacing local income levels. As that slowed and mortgages rose, you know, that's when a lot of these markets face a lot of challenges, relying on local income levels to support frothy home prices.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so they're down. What was the highest? 8.9% from
8.2. Yeah.
Down 8.2% from what? From like ridiculous numbers of value increase a few years ago. So, you know, but the median sale price for Florida year over year is up 1.2% for single family.
For the whole state.
Yeah. Median sale price for Florida, single family homes year over year is still up 1.2%, which is not a lot, but considering where they're starting.
Yeah, I actually have a great graph I'm going to bring up in a little bit that goes back to pre-pandemic about inventory. It's really interesting. Let's just see what's happening over here. Tabby, good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Slipping to me. Wow, if one is in the private market, like my son, who's an engineer for a private defense company, it might be a great time to buy in the next few months. There might be deals out there. And he also says, I know government workers are getting nervous, but it's way too early to see if DOGE is going to have any impact.
Yeah.
This is true. It is too early to see what the impact is going to be, but there already is some impact. Like I said, I put out a video 4 or 5 days ago, really digging down because there were so many of that fake news. Let me get rid of this for a second because I have a lot more to bring up. There's so much of that fake news out there. Everyone saw that screenshot of like Arlington with like 1 million listings, on the market, all like over $2 million. And they're all federal workers. I mean, it made no sense. It was so stupid because it would never happen that fast, that I countered it with just data, which is all true. Well, that being said, it changes weekly, right? And you and I were just talking, before we went live about what's happening in our market and how Lisa Sturdivant, who's the chief economist for Bright MLS, which is our local MLS here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia. This goes wider than that. West Virginia. Where's does Bright cover? And it's a wider berth than just us, but she was talking about us and kind of what's been happening from this week to last week compared to last year. And it's definitely trending in a certain way. Like, I think we're going to know a lot more in the next couple months, probably, because don't you agree? Now is our busiest time now, especially with the weather is getting a little better. It's really cold, but today was like 70 degrees. That if this trend continues, that will have a huge impact.
What I'm seeing right now, the impact is really emotional for buyers and sellers that I'm speaking to, is really just emotional impact, like bracing uncertainty. And not doing anything. Again, it's just another, let's wait and see what happens. And I like your combating or your response to some of these articles by going by the numbers. We can only go by what we know. And at least for our area, I was looking at the Federal Housing Finance Agency reports. And one of the things that it said was the Mid-Atlantic Division recorded the strongest appreciation, posting a 7.1% increase from the fourth quarter of 23 to the fourth quarter of 24. So in this area, basically, we're still, appreciation is still on the rise, right? Slower for sure than pandemic years. But when people say, should I buy? That should be a consideration. Because if you wait a year or two.
Right. My prices might only go up. And I also think, as you know, and you and I, we talk about this, real estate is so localized. So what's happening in a state is very different than what's happening in a county, which is very different than happening in a neighborhood, which is very different than happening house to house even. I mean, I've been talking about this for years, that we here in the DC area are in a mixed market. There's houses in the same neighborhood that one will sit because the seller's overpricing it, or maybe they decided not to hire a professional, so it doesn't look that great and marketed that great, and it will sit. And then a house in the same neighborhood is priced better and shows better and will go into multiple offers and go way over asking. Like even now, I mean, just last week I sold one in Germantown, 3 offers over asking, and so it's really more important than ever, if you are thinking about selling, to make sure that everything is top notch, right? From who you hire to represent the house, to how it's marketed, to how it's shown, to how it's priced. Don't you agree? Like, more important than ever.
Definitely. I mean, you have to, I think that's the greatest value that we can give our clients, right? Information, like current information, go with what you know and break it down, interpret and explain. And of course they make their decisions, but when it's done right, you get your multiple offers, or you get list price and shorter days on the market.
Yes. And I do think that having inspections and having contingencies, it's not a bad thing. It's okay. like that's part of negotiating. And once again, you need a strong advocate, whether you're on the buy side or the sell side, to do that, to negotiate on your behalf, because it's not a bad thing. We had our sales meeting today, and our broker came and talked to us about all of these lawsuits that have been going on that she experiences, because she's the broker of record, for Compass in our area. And a lot of it happens because inspections weren't done, because this wasn't done, and so all of a sudden things happen and people can sue over anything. So it's really better, in my opinion, to have all these contingencies in place, and then you just negotiate, you negotiate if there's stuff that come up, whether it's a credit or a repair, and you walk away like feeling like everybody feels like you got the house at the price that you're willing to pay, and the condition is what it's going to be, and negotiated whatever it needed to happen.
Yeah.
It's so much better than the craziness of like just throwing money at a house and hoping that it all works out.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. Just slow it down. It's got to be really transparent. So, your clients are comfortable. They know what it's going on each step. It's much better this way.
So in all the markets that you work at, and, between Florida, and owning homes there, and here, I know you have some investment properties here too. Have you seen a difference in both like the vibe, the energy, the feeling, and also like the data between one versus the other? Like, do you know, or is it everything is just anxiety and confusion? Basically,
I think the data does reflect the emotional, because it's people, right?
I know, but I'm saying, do you see anything different in the different markets? Like I'm licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, but I really very rarely spend a lot of time in Virginia because traffic's terrible and they make it hard to get there. Sorry, Virginia. I will sell your house if you want me to. But I really know DC and Maryland, especially Montgomery County, Maryland, like really, really well. I mean, like in it 24/7. I know you go to Virginia more than I do. Do you see any difference in just like the vibe out there in Florida or Virginia versus,
I think the vibe is very different. I mean, I think the vibe is similar.
You do.
Okay. Because the majority have some of the same issues, affordability, right? For whatever reason, and everything is price is relative to your client. So it's a lot of money to whoever is buying, and it's a big decision. So the basics, the foundations of what we're doing, how to list or how to buy or how to navigate, I think remain the same. And the emotional is, yes, everybody is kind of on edge. I don't see too much difference.
Yeah. I think that there's just so much going on, between the new president and kind of what's happening in his administration with regards to the housing market, because everything affects the housing market. People lose their jobs, affects the housing market. Pandemic affects the housing market. Interest rates, inflation, all that stuff affects the housing market. And there's just so much disruption right now. And federal workers aren't just here, as we know. We have less than 20% of them here. The rest of the 80% are all around the country. Plus, you have the contractors too. It's not just the federal employees. So it affects everyone. But at the end of the day, I still think that a more balanced market is not a bad thing. I want, our children to be able to buy a house eventually. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's bad to have more you don't want your children to buy a house?
No, I agree with you. A more balanced would be better. A more balanced market would definitely be better.
Living in Omaha. Good afternoon. What's happening in Omaha? Is it as stressful as it is here in DC? What's happening over there? And Jimmy says tariffs will affect build costs too.
That's a big concern. That's a big concern. And I was reading about that also.
Yeah,
Right?
everything does.
Yeah.
Everything does. All right, let me bring up this the other article, which was like the title of this video, to see what
Yeah,
they're
tariffs,
saying.
building costs, tipping inflation.
Okay. Home buyers are getting the largest discount in 2 years as sellers accept offers below asking price. Here's where the biggest markdowns are. So this is just another source, also written just a couple days ago. Home prices are seeing the biggest discount in 2 years, and homes are sitting on the market longer. That signals the housing market is tilting in favor of buyers as the critical spring selling season is about to begin. Housing prices may have been listed too aggressively as sellers settle for offers below what they initially sought. According to a Redfin report, the average home listing sold for 1.8% less than its asking price in January, the largest discount in nearly 2 years. So this is whenever it's national data, it's not that helpful. I mean, it is just to see kind of an overview of what's happening in the housing market, but it's just so market specific. Don't you agree? I mean, it's just what's happening in one place could be very different than what's happening in another place. In addition, it takes the average home 56 days to go under contract, the longest in nearly 5 years. With a slow market, buyers have more time to negotiate on pricing and terms for certain homes. The listings lingering on the market tend to be in unpopular neighborhoods or require renovation. Charles Wheeler, a Redfin agent in San Diego, said in the report. I wish I could get rid of this. I hate seeing moving things. Relatively affordable, move-in ready homes close to highly rated schools are selling quickly, often with multiple offers. This is exactly what we were just saying. You know, the Redfin data is the latest sign that the housing market is tilting in favor of buyers as the critical spring selling season is about to begin. In December, home delistings spiked 64% from a year ago to 73,000, their highest level since 2015, according to CoreLogic data cited by the Wall Street Journal. That's as buyers increasingly turn down sellers who had added more supply to the market. Interesting. Home delistings. You mean those sellers just took them off the market? 64%. Are you seeing a lot of that? Have you seen a lot of people just changing their mind or taking that house on the market, even if you have buyers that are looking and all of a sudden it's not there, or your own clients?
I have seen some of it. I've seen some numbers. I mean, like this here, and I think that again, which goes back to working with somebody, an agent, who really has a good sense of the market that you're in, and
Yeah.
because we know that schools, houses that are close to
Good
highly
schools.
rated schools in general sell quicker, right? There's some, like I said, foundationally, the real estate, we got to go back to the basics, and they still exist: location, schools,
Yeah.
condition, right? And I think people are off on the pricing, and when they are, you need an agent, or you need to be in the know to adjust quickly. And the market's moving, has been moving so quickly. You need to be able to adjust in a timely manner. And I think in my own experience, I most recently had a seller who kind of got caught in that, just trying to catch up. And even though we talked about it on a weekly basis, we just give information, right? He didn't take it off the market, thank goodness, and we talked about it some more, and he is selling it, but it was way longer than he expected. And it's the adjustment and knowing, where the market is at that time, and be willing to adjust, that I think is really helpful.
Chasing the market is the kiss of death.
It's not good.
Kiss of death. If anyone is out there watching this live or on the replay and you're thinking about putting your house on the market wherever you are in the country, by the way, if you need some help finding a good agent, we can help you do that. But be very, very careful how you price it, because chasing the market like Laurel's talking about, and like then you have to reduce, and all of a sudden this and that. It's the kiss of death. You'll most likely end up netting less than if you just priced it right to begin with.
Agreed.
This is saying, to be sure, homes are not suddenly cheap. Prices were up 4% in January compared to last year. Additionally, the average 30-year mortgage remains elevated near 7%. Higher housing prices and rates have shoved the average homebuyer's monthly payment to near record highs, according to Redfin. Still, there are deals to be had, and Redfin pointed to one state in particular that stands out: Florida. It's actually driving me crazy, Laurel. My ADD just like, I can't handle it. Sorry.
Yeah. Every day I'm like reading stuff. Just
the ads, the moving ads. I apologize if I keep clicking them off. It's very hard for me to focus when I see them moving. In West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, the typical home sells for 5% below asking price, the biggest markdown among the 50 most populous U.S. metro areas. Tampa and Jacksonville saw home sales at roughly 4% less than the asking price. Is that what you're seeing in Jacksonville?
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that Miami was, I thought Miami prices were still going up.
They're not adjusting fast enough, sellers, right? It's hard to adjust when they need to go down.
It says, according to a separate Rocket report, Miami-Dade January housing sales saw 78% of homes close under the asking price. All of these metros are selling at a larger discount than they were in January 2024, according to Redfin. The Florida market has been battered with natural disaster concerns, causing potential buyers to reconsider. Extreme weather events had caused home insurance costs to soar, along with HOA fees and property taxes. Sellers are more enticed to accept an offer under the listing price as demand slows. Homes are selling above asking in only 7 of the U.S. 50 most populated metros, led by San Jose, where homes are selling on average 3% above the asking price, Redfin said. Oof. So, you know what? The market's slowing down. We know that. Let me see. David says, no, it's pretty chill. Market is heating up. Multiple offers in Omaha. 100% real estate's like the weather. It's all local for sure. So your market is heating up and you're getting multiple offers. Interesting. We are too. It just depends on the house.
Yeah.
It just depends on the house. And I got to tell you, when and I've said this before, when people get scared and they're uncertain about what's going to happen, right? And all this news that's coming out with the new administration, whether it has to do with DOGE and firings, or it has to do with tariffs, and that's going to make things more expensive. No matter what it is, it's all unsettling. Even if it has to do with the wars with Ukraine or Israel, anything that could possibly change things, people freeze. They don't tend to make big decisions. They don't tend to all of a sudden put their house on the market or move to another place. They tend to freeze. So I think that may be happening as well, and maybe that's why they're projecting this similar amount of sales as the last couple of years, which is very low, 4.1 million, I think they were saying. I don't know. Why do you think they're saying the same amount of sales and yet everything else, the inventory and everything else, is so different?
Why do I repeat your question?
So if the same amount of sales are projected to happen in 2025, I think they said 4.1 million, the same amount of transactions, amount of sales, but inventory is going to get so much larger, right? Why? Where are the buyers? If the buyers were out before because they were getting multiple offers, so that's more than one buyer for a house, right? In the last 5 years since the pandemic, a lot of markets are seeing multiple offers. Where are they all? If they're not buying more homes, if more homes are on the market.
I think it's affordability. I mean, the rates are pretty high. And when they're, the majority of buyers are spending over the 30% recommended debt to income, you should be spending on housing, and they're closer to 40. I mean, that's, going to keep a lot of people renting. So one of the things I will say is I think that, you know, if people don't have to move, I don't think they're going to. I think it's going to come down to, again, life events, job. Oh, I have to go back to the office. I want to move closer to family. There's a lot of people doing multi-generational housing situations like myself, closer to family, for a life event.
Death, divorce, babies,
Right. Divorce,
job.
and or relocation. I've had several relocation clients. That's just what they need to do. So there's always going to be a percent of that going on. Life does go on.
I know, but there was so much pent up demand that finally having more inventory. I'm surprised that with this influx more inventory just coming out now that they didn't change that data, that projection of the amount of sales. I'm surprised because the interest rate's been high for a while. But this goes to what you were just saying. The income needed to purchase a typical U.S. home has increased by 79% in just 5 years.
It's crazy. And I don't have the article, but our consumer debt, personal consumer debt, is higher than ever. So if you're trying to get a loan and they're looking at all, debt to income ratio, that's going to be really hard. So the desire might be there, but the means have to catch up. So
I know. I want to take a closer look at this. I just pulled it up because you were talking about incomes, which I agree with you. Ali G, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Relocating from Dallas this year with all the turmoil going on, is Maryland still a good idea? From Dallas? Of course it is. You just can't like the Cowboys around here. I'm so sorry. You're not going to want to be a Dallas Cowboy fan around here, especially since our Commanders are good now. Here's the thing. I don't know if you just joined us live, but it depends on where you want to move to, which part of Maryland, what your budget is, why are you moving? All that stuff comes into play. And I'm really happy to talk to you about this, privately. If you want to send me an email or text, all my information's on every video I do, and we can set up a Zoom and we can chat about it privately, because depending on what your reasons are and your situation and your budget and where you want to move is what I think in talking, we can help make your decision clear. But I always think it's a good idea to move from Texas to here. So you're asking the wrong person. I help a lot of people move from Texas to here, and it makes me really happy every time, as long as they don't like the Cowboys. Okay. Income needed to purchase a typical U.S. home has increased 79% in just 5 years. Oh my God. I hope I didn't offend you, Ali, with the Cowboys. Not really, but kind of. Here's the annual U.S. household income needed to purchase a typical valued U.S. home. Okay. January 2020. Remember January 2020? Right before the pandemic, when it was just like something we were talking about, like, yeah, it'll never happen. Do you remember that? It seems like yesterday. January 2020, $51,646. 21, didn't go up that much, just a little bit. 22, that's a pretty big jump. Goes up to 62,000 and change. Look at the jump between 2022 and 2023. This is the annual U.S. household income needed to purchase a typical valued U.S. home. We went from 62,669 to 86,184. That's huge. And then from 86 to 92, and then into 2024, and this year, it has pretty much stayed the same. A 79% shift in 5 years. This Zillow calculation is conservative and assumes a 20% down payment, and the home buyer spends less than 30% of their monthly income on the total monthly payment. This is a finance purchase, of course. For typical home values, Zillow economists use the latest Zillow Home Value Index reading. Wow. And then it goes on. I don't know if we need to read this whole thing. It just basically talks about everything that we're saying about affordability. because you need to have the money to afford to buy the home, no matter what the price is,
Mm-hmm. I mean, with increased inventory, if there's enough, then the prices will
go down.
eventually come down.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
again, from where? Pretty high.
right.
Pretty high.
So I know I'm jumping all over the place, and I'm grateful you all are hanging with me here. I'm a disabled vet originally from Cincinnati. Go Bengals. Okay. Bengals are fine. Cowboys, not so much.
I'm just sick of that. Well, then
disabled
definitely come this way. And disabled vet, VA loans,
property
full
taxes, you're exempt
disability is
from.
the best. Is the
Yeah.
best loan option.
And they're exempt from property taxes.
Yeah. I just helped someone buy in Virginia, but I'm also have another one. I encourage you to use your benefits because it's the best loan type going.
Yeah. I love VA loans, and I help a lot of my clients are VA clients, and I just think that, yeah, exactly. You should take advantage of all your benefits. Why
Mm-hmm.
not? That property taxes here are not as bad as like New Jersey and other places, but not as good as, Delaware. So that's a nice savings too.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely hit me up if you want, and we can talk privately, and hopefully help you move to Maryland or Virginia.
Or Virginia. Or DC.
Or Virginia or DC. Speaking of DC, and I have one more thing I'm going to bring up. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but it has to do with inventory compared to pre-pandemic. I think it's super interesting. But before I do that, we were talking about opportunities, and you're an investor as well as a real estate broker. Would you think, with all of the inventory that's happening in DC, and there is a big jump in DC, in fact, let me bring this up just to show you what the jump is. And a lot of this is condos.
Condos are on the struggle bus. I can tell you that.
I understand. So if you look at DC, so this is going all the way back to 2018 up until 2025.
Oh boy.
Active housing inventory. This is everything, not just condos, everything. 67% increase since pre-pandemic, so 2019, right? But even if you look just from year to year, it's about 30%, if I'm doing the math correctly. Because you can see it was.
I'll take your word for it.
I could be wrong, but at 67%, I'm confident about because Lance did it for us. But and I know a lot of that is condos, right? I don't think the condo market ever fully recovered from COVID. Do you think, as just put your investor glasses on, it's a good time to buy in DC? You there?
I am. Well,
I can't see
wouldn't. I personally wouldn't, but I'm not in the condo investment space.
Yeah.
I like single families. But I would have to take a closer look. But I wouldn't, for a couple of reasons, which I think we touched on before, just the TOPA DC
is tricky because you have TOPA, unless you're just always planning on having it be a rental, then it doesn't really matter. But also, just never know with condos. You never know if those condo fees are going to go up. DC's a lot of older buildings. I mean, even though there's a lot more inventory, because it could possibly be a good for somebody who just wants to increase their real estate portfolio and is just not, is going to keep it as an investment property. Obviously, buildings have different investor ratios. You got to check that. But I just was thinking about it. There might be some opportunities out there for people if they want to, diversify their finances and bring in some real estate. If the inventory increases, if you look at this after DC, you have Texas. This is compared to pre-pandemic, up 13%.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, it drops. Maryland, all the way down here, down 51% since pre-pandemic. Look at the numbers. 2018, 17,000 and change, 18,000 and change. and then 14.9, and then look, it drops all the way low to under 6,000. And even now, going up year to year, it's still so much lower than pre-pandemic. Virginia, same thing, 52%. You know, look at Connecticut. It's a small state, but they got no inventory there.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching the inventory. If the prices reflect that, and of course I'm looking in Florida, but if there's a correction and there's a price improvement, which means going down, I'm looking at it,
You
right?
are? Yeah, Florida says up 5% since pre-pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, if the numbers work for you, right, then yes. I just find it harder because, the prices in this area are much higher than in some others, like my market in Florida. So you get a little bit more for your money, and since I'm looking for single families, I just get more there.
But
now.
But you think the rents are softening?
Again, my market, which is in Jacksonville, Florida, is a bit.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that was maybe 6 months ago, right? And so I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I don't have the data here right now, but
Don't you have investment properties here too? Don't you have at least one?
Well, I just have my old house that I rented out.
That's an investment property.
Yeah.
So do you see that? Have you looked at that data for that recently as far as like, because you work in rentals too, don't you? I don't work in rentals, so I don't know that much about the rental market. I don't know if it's softening or
mostly I don't a lot. I will do it for clients if they have a specific, they're moving in or whatever, or whatever their circumstances are, but I don't a ton. But for myself, again, local, right? What's the area taking in consideration the market? And I had no problem renting it whatsoever, just because of
the location, right? It's in Kensington, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I'm going to see another one of my clients on Friday. It's just so interesting because of everything that's happening. If you are in this market 24/7, like you and I are, and if you guys are watching this across the country, if you're going to work with a real estate professional, make sure they do it full time, because there's just too much happening too quickly that if you're doing this like as a part-time job, you're not going to know what's going on. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was saying, so one of the things I was thinking about, I'm going to see this this client of mine on Friday, and it was new construction 2 years ago, so it's still pretty new. Right at Metro in Gaithersburg, it's Durwood actually, right at Metro. So all these people that have to now go back into the office, they have to think about their commute times and all that stuff. And to be the first stop on the red line, because it's Shady Grove, it goes right into DC, also Virginia. It's gold, So I was just thinking ways to market it. And I'm like, you have to think about everything now. All the changes that are happening affect where people want to live.
For sure.
For sure. Slipping Jimmy says, I would not want to be a DC landlord. No, I know you're right. I just thought, opportunity.
Me neither.
Landlords have it right.
Me neither. That's why I can't talk about it.
That's probably why the condo market's so soft there too, because a lot of investors probably don't want to get into it. And DC's, I was on a friend of mine's live stream last night, and we were talking about DC because I'm licensed in DC and he isn't. You got to remember, just like everything else that's localized, like DC is divided into 4 quadrants with the capital in the middle, and each one is very different. So the data in Northwest is going to be very different than Southeast or Southwest or Northeast. So it really also depends on where in DC. I love DC, but
no, it's same rules apply.
Yeah.
Location, right? And I'm gonna go down there, and I'm ready for some pretty big competition for my buyers who are coming in, right, from California. They're like, I want to live downtown, 15th and
Oh,
already I know I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have
yeah,
to dig in, if they go a couple, a little bit north or a little bit east, totally different story,
right. You
right?
know what's booming right now in DC? The luxury housing market. 5 million and up. I think because the new administration is bringing in a lot of money people, is all of a sudden like taking off. It's interesting. I think that, Laura, I think we're going to know. I mean, it's week by week. I did want to bring up one more thing, just because we were talking about it for this area. Just so you can see when I say week by week, I am not kidding. This is what we got from Lisa Sturtevant that we talked about at the beginning of the live. On.
Yeah, I have this
And
up.
she sent this out today. This is the Greater DC Area Weekly Housing Market Update. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can just see she goes by the Greater DC region and then Bright MLS area, which includes markets in 6 states and the District of Columbia. The current week new listings compared to a year ago in the Greater DC region is up 12.9%. And the whole Bright, it's only up 3.6% compared to a week ago, 20.1%. The week ago stuff, it was freezing last week. That doesn't you know what I'm saying? Like if you had to wait a week to put your house on the market from last week to this week, it's 70 degrees today. It was like 20 last week. That doesn't I'm not going to look at that one, but a year ago, up 13% new listings. Median list price still up compared to a week ago, 0, but that's
Yep.
but still up, not a lot, but still up. Percentage of actives with a price drop. Current week compared to a year ago is up 1.6%. Is that what they're saying? Current week, so 7.5%.
Percentage point, yeah.
Yeah, of active with a price drop. And compared to, I'm not going to do the week ago thing. And new pending down 7.3% from a year ago. So that tracks with the whole 4.1 million. Interesting. Showings are down compared to a year ago. Down 9%. And compared to a week ago, up 20%. Once again, it was freezing last week. So if I can't look at the week ago for everything else, I can't look at it for that either. Because, to go out last week is very different than going out this week.
Yes.
But it just shows how things change, and this isn't all the different, this is what we mean by it depends on where you are. If you just, without going, because I know we're running out of time, without going through all of these, this is all the DMV, right? So you go from negative, this is compared to a year ago, go from new listings down 23.9% to up 80%. Well, that's a small little area. Let's not do that. Down 23.9% to up 29%, down 75% to up 30%. It's all over the place. Montgomery County, where we are, compared to a year ago, new listings are up 25.4%. But compared to a week ago, 28.4% because the weather's better. So they're going to put more on. Median list price is still up. Active listings with a price drop, the 1.2, 2.2, it's like nothing. It's the same. New pending contracts compared to a year ago, down 6.5%. I know you said you think it's because of affordability. I think affordability has been bad for a long time. So I think this is because of what's happening. I think, like I said, when people get nervous and they want to wait and see what's around the corner, what's going to happen, they do nothing. And I think that's why that's happened. I think more will be flushed out in the next couple weeks, definitely next couple of months, but in the next couple of weeks, I think we'll see, all right, we're just going to move on back to normal and everyone's going to do what they're going to do before this happened. Or is more news going to come out that's going to cause,
I hope,
more chaos?
Yeah.
Sipping Jimmy says, I read a Washington Post story today that stated 24% of its economy is driven by the federal workforce, while in Virginia it's only 3.4%. 24% of its economy? Interesting. Some of this resident. Huh. That's a lot. One fourth of the economy is driven by and that's, I don't know if federal workforce, if that includes the federal contractors, it probably does, is my guess. Oh, Laurel, what are we going to do? What did we learn today? I got to apologize. I know I was all over the place today, but here's what happens to me. I start to, because I picked the articles before doing the live stream, thinking that, the most recent and relevant articles, right? But I don't want to read them because I want to like react to it in real time. I don't want to, I do recorded videos once a week. This is live. But once I start looking at the headlines right before we come on, it takes me down that rabbit hole because I want to know the data. I'm a data person. I want to know, like, not headlines, like what's the data? Show me what's happening, apples to apples, now to a year ago, or now to 6 months, whatever it is, to pre-pandemic. Because for me, that gives me a better idea of what's really going to happen.
Yeah.
So I was all over the place. But if you had to sum it up and what you feel is happening with all this stuff I threw at you and threw at the live, what would you come away with if somebody is watching this on the replay?
Me.
Yes, you.
Me.
Talking to.
Well, what I do is, I try to cut out the noise, right? Real estate is local, but it's also very personal, right? So when I'm talking to my clients, we bring up this stuff and I just I focus on their situation, their circumstances, and what their hope is, their goal is, just owning a home, stop renting, whatever their circumstances are, that's what we know. And I try to move them that way. And all the noise, it's like, because they're looking longer term. And so like you're saying, it might change, it may not change, but we're looking a little bit farther down the line. So I think that's my takeaway as far as, it's very important to know what's going on and to hear what everyone's saying and what they're reacting to. But at the end of the day, for me, I bring it back to my clients and what they need and how can we position them the best in the market that we are in right now.
Yeah. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It is a lot of noise. And the one thing that we can 100% count on is change.
Yeah.
Right. It's always going to change.
Yeah.
So you're right. If you are thinking about selling or you're thinking about buying, two different processes, make sure that you know exactly what you want. You align yourself with people that know what's going on in the market that can best position you to get what you want. Whether it's the money from selling the house or the perfect house for you to buy. And also, like you just said, it's a long-term investment. This shouldn't be something you're thinking about for 2 years. If you are thinking about buying a home, and it's probably the biggest purchase of your life, I'd imagine. I know it was for me. You should be thinking more long-term, and make sure I keep saying, make sure it meets all your needs. I'm tired. I've been talking about the housing market too much lately.
Yeah.
I need a drink, tea, or wine. Thanks for coming on, Laurel. I know it's all over the place tonight. If you're watching this on the replay and you have questions about any of the articles I wrote on tonight, you want me to put any of the links in the comments, I'm happy to do that so you can get a closer look at the data that we've been discussing. I do think it's important to kind of get an idea of what's happening in the housing market rather than believing the clickbait headlines have been out there. This is all the stuff I bring up is just pure data. It's numbers. I think that's just the way for me anyway, for my brain to understand what's happening rather than the hypotheticals and the possibilities. And, it doesn't work for me because then I go down another rabbit hole. So anyway, so thank you for watching it. And if you want to join us live every Wednesday night, not every Wednesday night, sometimes I'm not here, most Wednesday nights, I will be here from 6 to 7 live in Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining me. Yes, drinks, maybe all three.
Three.
You know what? It's that kind of night. It's just, I had meetings today, did a live last night, I recorded a video. So I'm all like in the data headspace. And I think a drink is appropriate. I will see you in the next couple of days. Thank you again for coming on. Where can people find you?
You can find me on my website. Are you going to post just my contact if you'd like to do that? Call, text, email.
What is your website? How about that? Is it just your name?
LaurelMurphyRealestate.com. I keep it real easy. So Instagram, texting, email, phone, whatever you prefer.
Yeah. And Laurel, you are impressive. I know I tell you this all the time and you're very modest about it, but it takes a lot of education, a lot of hours to be brokers for all these states that you're in. I mean, it's a lot. And then you're also an investor on top of it, and you're a mom on top of it, and you play tennis with me and indulge me.
My favorite.
We do.
You're very kind.
It's all true.
Yeah.
So I thank you again, and thank you all for joining us, and we will see you soon. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.